and welcome to A Moment with Vivacious. Today we have with us Mr. Scott Gibson. Introduce yourself, Scott.
How you doing? My name is Scott Gibson. I'm a mental health nurse. I work in crisis. I deal with drugs, alcohol, and people that are having mental breakdowns. And I'm also an activist.
Thank you for being here. We have you here because you have experienced a lot of the deep things in life that maybe a lot of people don't understand about themselves, and us as a nation have to come to understand as a nation. So we're going to talk a lot about your life today, but we're going to start off with you were young, living with your grandmother, right? How did that come about?
Okay, well, my mom had my older brother a month after her 16th birthday, and she had me 5 months before her 18th birthday. And we were living in the projects. I'm from Queens, New York, and we were living in the projects, and my grandmother came one day and said, "Hey, do y'all want to come and live with me?" And we said yes. So my grandmother took us out of the projects, and then we moved to a place called Bayside, Queens, and it's kind of a middle, upper class part of Queens. A lot of people think when you hear New York that everybody lives in the projects. Well, I didn't grow up in the projects. I grew up along Little Neck Bay. I grew up in a really nice part of New York. So that's how I ended up with my grandmother.
And then your mom was there too, and
well, basically what happened was my mother, she had graduated high school, and she had things that she wanted to do with her life, but because she had children early, it was different routes she had to take. So right after her 21st birthday, she had my sister. And then on her 24th birthday, she had my other sister. But my mother always had ambition. So what happened was, my grandmother said, "Listen, I will take care of these children for you, but you have to do something with your life." So what my mother did was, my mother went to school and my mother became a nurse. So she did that for a couple years, and we still stayed with my grandmother, and then my mother joined the military. And when she joined the military, my grandparents decided that they were going to retire, and they told her, "Hey, you have to come and get your kids because we're leaving New York, and you have to come and pick up your children." But with my grandmother, it wasn't an easy road. My grandmother was really, really tough. A lot of discipline, a lot of hands-on. You know, I had my brother, me, my two sisters, and then I had my other two cousins there. So we had a full house of people, and it was just always a lot of things going on. And my grandmother believed in discipline. Hands-on. My grandfather was stoic, but we had both of them in the house, but they had rules that we had to go by, and it wasn't easy. I mean, we probably got spankings like every night. You know, my grandmother was like, "If I'm gonna spank one, I'm gonna spank all. I'm gonna teach you all." And
my dad did that one time.
And my grandmother used to tell us, "Strip down to your underwear. I don't want the belt to land on nothing but skin." And you would think that it was child abuse, and we would be, but this was the rules in her house. And because of that, we were able to do the things that we were able to do because she gave us all she could. But it's hard to raise your kids, especially when you're older, but this is the way that she did it. But both of my grandparents were college educated. They both graduated college, and they gave us a good life. But it was tough. It wasn't easy.
Well, Scotty, how you guys? So then you went to Germany.
Yes.
Your mom. So did you go immediately to Germany when your mom said, "Come pick up the children"? You went to Germany then?
Yes. They let us ride out the summer, and we went to Germany in August of 1984.
That was to go to school.
That was to go to school. That was to live with my mother. But you have to understand, my mom wasn't like my grandmother. My grandmother did laundry. My grandmother was a traditional housewife. She cooked, she cleaned, she did the laundry. She didn't vacuum. We vacuumed and she had a Kirby vacuum cleaner. She didn't let us touch it. And we were like, well, how are we supposed to vacuum? And she said, use your little vacuums. So we would be on the floor picking up lint and putting it in our hair like that. Because, but
I've experienced that too.
But we moved to Germany, and it was something that, you know, we had never experienced before, because what people fail to realize is that also about New York is that there is racism in New York. And where I grew up at, we would call the N-word all the time while people driving by in cars. Of course, they didn't come up to us and say it to us, but they would, and this is the attitude that I've grown up with until that time. But in 1984, we moved to Germany, and the first thing we did when we got there is that there wasn't enough space in the car, so my mom was like, you guys got to take a cab. And we got in the cab. It was a Mercedes taxi cab. We were like, oh man, a Mercedes, you know, me and my brother like, wow, this is different. You know, we don't see this. And the guy was had the car going at full speed. We're on the Autobahn. Now, we didn't know nothing about this. And me and my brother in the back, like, why is this guy driving so fast? And the guy explained to us that there were no speed limits on the Autobahn over there. So that was our first experience. But when we moved in with my mom, she had already had the apartment. Everybody had their own room. So, you know, we like, oh man, you know, I got my own room. This is different. So one of the first things we did when we got in the house, we were like, hey, we want to see what's on TV. So we plugged the TV in, and it blew the TV out because we didn't know about the voltage change. So America has 110 and Europe has 220, so we burned the TV out. The TV, we had to throw it away. But what my mom did was when she got...
So that meant it was too much electricity on the TV?
It was too much electricity on the TV, and it burned out the insides.
All right.
But when we moved in with my mom and we all got settled, the first thing that my mom did was say to us, okay, look, this is how I run my house. My mom took us downstairs. She taught us how to do laundry. My mom taught us how to cook. My mom taught us how to clean. She did all of these things because she was a soldier and she was training other soldiers. So we had to come to the understanding of mom might not be so loving, but she taught us how to survive in life. That's the one thing that we got from her. And you know, it wasn't easy at first because we were like, you know, where's the love and everything that, you know, we got from my grandmother? But my mom was still young and she was still living her life. So we spent a lot of time by ourselves in the apartment. And I tell you this right here. When I was young, I didn't understand, but now as an adult, I understand what my mom was going through. I understand what she sacrificed. I understand what she did for us to have this life. Because we could have stayed in New York with all my friends, and we could have been in jail, we could have been on drugs, we could have died, we could have went through all of the negative things that my friends went through, but because my mother stepped up and did something with her life, we were able to have the life that we had. Now, did we appreciate it as young people? Absolutely not. Because when we got there, you know, my brother was already 18 and I was about maybe 15 years old. And coming from New York, Germany didn't have rules. I mean, literally, it was like, you know, you could pretty much do whatever you wanted to do. And for kids coming from New York, we were like, oh man, this is crazy. But one thing that I did see over there was I saw with the military for sure. I saw a lot of, you know, when I was in New York, it was a lot of divisions between races, white people here, Indian people there, Asian people here, Hispanics there, and black people here. And when I got to Germany, everybody was like all together. Mm-hmm. I had never seen anything like that. I had never seen interracial dating before. And these were young people doing it. They were, you know, in high school. And it was amazing to see this.
And so when the race conversation did come up, the race conversation came up with you and some of your new friends in Germany. Tell us about that. Okay.
Well, eventually I started having friends that were not American, because Germany is a melting pot too. It's not as big and diverse as America, but it's also a melting pot too. So one time my friends asked me, we were talking about race, and I told them that I was an African American. And they literally laughed in my face and said, "You're not African." I said, "No, my culture is African American." And when there were Africans there living amongst the people. And somebody said to me, "Well, what color is your passport?" I said, "It's blue." They said, "You're an American." They said, "There's no African American, you're an American." And I had never heard anything like that before. It's amazing because I actually had to come back to America to get the label of African American when the rest of the world saw me as an American. And I thought that was so odd. It was mind blowing because in America, everything is always based on race. And people say, "Oh, race doesn't matter." Yeah, but it's on every single application that you fill out. Anything that you do in America, it's a racial concept to it. As much as they try to make it seem like we just all in one big bag together, which we are, but the dynamic of race always comes to the forefront. It's like when you had Black Lives Matter, for example, the whole world stood up and said, "Black Lives Matter." And people got out here marching all over the world. They said Black Lives Matter. But what happened? It went back to the norm. Young people started killing each other, and it started going back to what it was. And the media helped to push that. But the thing about black people in America, what they don't understand is we are the voice of the world. We are the ones who take the lead. People follow us. What we say, people follow behind that. Because believe it or not, there are actually more poor people in the world than rich people. So when you have, let's say, rap music, and you use that to direct a message to people. So if you have people in place that are saying, "Okay, we're going to show the negative side of things," the people around the world pick up on that and they start doing negative things. But the problem with it is there's no balance to it. There's no say, "Okay, well, these people are doing this, the doctors and lawyers and all of that." We're not getting to see that because we as a people, we don't control our narrative. And that's where we're losing at because we allow.
So how do we get control of our narrative?
We get control of our narrative.
And who are we talking to right now?
We're talking to
older people,
we're talking to old people,
Americans.
young people, Americans, Africans, British. We talking to everybody. What we have to do to get control of our narrative is we have to come together and unify. See, the thing about it is that it's not a white-black thing because it's more poor people in America than anywhere else. But division is the thing that people use to keep us divided because if the people who don't have would come together, we have a much powerful voice. And they don't want that. They want everybody to keep fighting each other, to keep blaming each other.
So how do we do this?
Go ahead.
How do we, as poor people, I don't have billions of dollars in the bank. Mm-hmm. So how do we, the greater number, unify?
Okay. That's off with one thing.
See, I want to ask something right now, but it might jump the gun. Could we hold that? Could we hold that?
Yes.
All right. So let's talk about for just a second how freedom. I'm saying this is my language, okay? How freedom overtook you, and you end up reckless.
Yes.
Because there were no boundaries in Germany. Am I correct?
No boundaries.
Okay.
And I mean no boundaries to where there was no drinking age. I mean, I lived 90 minutes away from Amsterdam before Amsterdam became cool. When people started saying, "Oh, Amsterdam," I was there as a young 17-year-old, 18-year-old doing these things. And what happened is my mom, she had so many children, she couldn't afford to take care of all of us, like give us school clothes and everything like that. I dropped out of school in the 8th grade. I wasn't dumb, I just didn't have any direction. Once my grandparents' hand was off of me and my mom, it's like a pendulum. It went from this to this. I mean, literally like overnight to the extremes. It's literally like taking a dog that's been on a leash all its life and taking it off the leash. The dog is going to roam. The dog is going to get into all kinds of different things. And I'm not saying that I was a dog, but I'm saying it's the same concept.
Yes.
So when you don't have anybody holding you accountable, and with being in Germany, anything that you did on the German side, the Germans have to give you back to the Americans because it was an occupied country. It seemed like everyday life, but we were living in an occupied territory. So we had a stamp in our passport. It's called the SOFA stamp, Status of Forces Agreement, that anything that happened with an American, you had to give them back. With Germans and Americans, you had to give them back to the Germans.
And that was part of the freedom that you experienced.
Oh, yes. Because you're not doing things that involve the military, especially when you start dealing with the German public. Now you're dealing with all different types of nationalities. So, being young and reckless and listening to the wrong music or watching the wrong videos, well, guess what? We doing the same crazy things that we might have been doing in New York. So I got there in August of '84, and they told my mom, your son is so out of control, two things are going to happen. Either he has to go back to the United States, or we have to put you out the military. And I got there August of '84. They told my mother this in December of '84. So I had to come back to New York, and of course, when I got back to New York, my grandmother's gone, all my cousins are there, they're in and out of jail, they're friends, or I was staying at my grandmother's old house with my cousins and them, and we had people that had been in jail with my cousins, and they were there, and people were literally getting robbed in the house we were staying at. There was no heat. The water was barely running. My aunt and my uncle, they were both on drugs, so nobody was paying any bills. And then you have a bunch of young teenagers who don't have anything to lose, so they out here robbing and stealing and everything like that. And I was fortunate enough that at the end, I was able to go back to Germany. But now I was, my mindset was different because I didn't understand when I was there the first time.
On your return.
On my return. Now.
So how you got back to Germany and they said that you can't come back, that your mom would have to get out of the military?
My mother sent me back. The military didn't send me back. If the military would have sent me back, I wouldn't have been able to come back. But because my mother sent me back, I was able to come back. It was like a loophole in the system.
Yes.
But when I got back there, I had a different respect for it. I understood now, hey, listen, you could be back there in New York with all your friends going through what they're going through, or you can be over here. Now I understood the freedoms that I had. So I was able to, I started meeting different people. I started hanging out with different people. And I was still not going to school. I mean, my mom didn't brief about that.
In all actuality, you cultivated your loose life.
Oh, yeah.
It was just cultivated now.
Yes.
Because there was a in between that protected you. That was a time of real freedom. I didn't belong to them. I don't belong to them.
Oh, absolutely.
So, so you cultivated that wild life in order to survive.
Yes. Once I started to my mother left, me and my brother stayed. My mother came back to America. She, her tour duty was over, and she came back to America, and me and my older brother decided to stay. So we were just over there. I mean, we didn't have any rules because we weren't affiliated with the Germans and we weren't affiliated with the American government. So we were just like in between. But we weren't doing anything crazy. We were just over there living and enjoying life. I met people who literally judged me for the content of my character, not my skin color. I didn't have any racial issues over there. Because
you had that blue passport.
Because I had that blue passport. Because I was American.
I think if America can understand that that's how the world see us.
Yes.
Whether it doesn't matter if you're American, the world is going to judge us as Americans. So our enemies, even though you're an American, you're an enemy to America's enemy, even if you don't understand that.
Oh yeah, where I lived at, we had terrorist attacks. There were bombings where, at the shopping center where I lived at, there were car bombings, and they were blowing up restaurants where I lived at. And we had terrorist posters in the housing area, and we always had to have ID to get in out of post, and it was always a heightened alert. That was part of it. I was on a plane one time, and we were getting ready to come to the States, and the pilot yelled, "Get off the plane! There's a bomb!" And everybody was screaming.
And it was a real bomb?
No, I don't think so. But it was just a threat, and we literally had to get off the plane and slide down those chutes that come out and everything like that, and it was crazy.
So, and I wanted young men to hear that you had a wild and crazy life.
I had it absolutely crazy.
So, what helped you come around?
Okay.
What changed your life around? Because now you're a nurse, so you.
Okay, two things helped me. One of my friends introduced me to rap music, and the thing about it was we put so much energy into focus in doing this. I got to do shows, I got to tour with big groups that came from America, and I got to make money doing that. But what really changed it was my friends' parents. They let me come and stay with them. Command Sergeant Major Joseph and Vera Haynes. They took me in, and now the pendulum swung back the other way hard, just like being with my grandparents. So the first thing, when I moved in with them, they had rules, and the first thing they told me was, hey, you got to go to school. Now, mind you, I'm 19 years old. I haven't been to school in years. But guess what? I went back to school. And they told me that, well, you don't have enough credits to graduate. You have to go to America and to finish high school. So I was like, well, I'm not doing that right now. And at my high school, there were 2 black teachers, and one of them, her name was Miss Egerton. And when they told me that, she was waiting right outside of the principal's office, and she said, come with me. And she took me to the adult education center on base, and she walked in with me, and she said, he needs to get his GED. And I was like, oh man, I don't want to do that. She said, he needs to get his GED. And she walked out, and this might have been on a Thursday, and I took a practice exam, and I did pretty good. And they said, hey, well, when do you want to come and take the test? I said, I'll come and take it the following Monday. So that weekend I studied, and I went and I passed the GED on my first time. I wasn't dumb, I just didn't have any direction. Like I said, just running wild. So because of my friend's parents, that's what put me in a position to get my GED, and I didn't know it at the time what that was gonna do for my life. But eventually, I made my way back to the States, and I started to go to college. I met my ex-wife there, and we were in Augusta. We came to Atlanta, and we were working so hard, but she had a high school diploma and I had a GED, and it was just constant work, sacrifice, suffering. And one day I was on a train, and well, before that, I actually started writing a screenplay. I started writing screenplays, and I went to LA, and I was at this seminar, and I wrote this one-page brief, and the guy was, and I didn't win the contest, but a producer came up to me and said, hey, you wrote that? I was like, yeah, I wrote that. And he was like, that's good. And I was like, well, why didn't I win? And he said, do you have 13 weeks to come to California to take advantage of this? And I said, no. He said, well, why are we going to give it to you then? I said, because you said it was good. He said, that's not good enough. He said, if you really want to be a screenwriter, here's my card. When you got the time, come back.
So that was the second opportunity you missed?
Yes, yes, that was the second one, because I had the one in Germany. I had a record company and a touring company, and they really wanted, they told me that we could make you a lot of money, but the problem was blind loyalty, because my friend's family had did so much for me that I thought that I owed my friend. And when the opportunity came, they didn't want him, they just wanted me. And I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And my friend was like, yeah, come on, we don't need that. But I understood my friend should have said to me, hey, man, go get the opportunity, and we could both, you could make it work for both of us, but that's not here or there. But what happened was eventually I came back, I was working, and I was on a train on the MARTA one day, and I would see this sign, and it said, I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. And it was about a woman who got pregnant young, and then her daughter got pregnant young, and she said she was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and she went back to school and became a nurse. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna become a nurse. I can go to nursing school. I can get a contract, travel out to California for 13 weeks. I can work, and then I can network while I'm out there. And I got to school, I didn't even know what a GPA was. I didn't know, because when I dropped out of school, it was before GPA. So I didn't understand what that was. And when I got there, I had already knew a girl from me working a job and stopping by at McDonald's every day. She was a manager there. And when I got there, she was in the class, and she was like, hey, what are you doing here? And we started talking, and she was like, well, what are you going to school for? And I said, I'm going to school for nursing. And she said, what's your GPA? I said, 2.4. And she was like, ooh, what you going to school for? I said, nursing. She was like, oh, okay. So mind you, I'm the only male in the class. So other people started coming in, and they're like, hey, you know what you going to school for? And and somebody said to me, what you going to school for? She said, he ain't going to school for nothing. And I was like, what? She said, he ain't going to school for nothing. And I said, I'm going to school for nursing. And she said, tell them what your GPA is. I said, 2.4. And they were all like, ooh. And I said, well, what are you trying to say? She said, I'm not trying to say anything. She said, I'm telling you that we all 4.0s in here. She said, if you're going to go to school, don't just go to school. She said, go to school. And I took that, and I said, I need a blueprint. How can I attack this? And the music, the writing, all the hard work I put in. So I took that blueprint of all the hard work with the music, and I put the school over top of that, and I graduated almost at the top of my nursing class, and my GPA when I was done was 3.5. Because somebody told me, cared enough to tell me.
So now you're a father.
Now I'm a father.
So
yes.
You didn't have a relationship with your father?
I never knew my father at all. All I ever had was my grandfather and Pop Haynes, my friend's dad. These are the men in my life that made the biggest difference, made the impact.
So what do you think your life missed by not having a father?
Well, if I had a father when I was with my mother, it would have been more discipline. It would have been more of a heavy hand. You know, a lot of people, you know, they make this excuse like, oh, me and my girlfriend don't get along, me and my baby mother don't get along, but that's an excuse because the child didn't ask to be here. That's your responsibility, whether you want to accept it or not. No matter what you have to go through to be part of this child's life, you should do it. You know, when I was young, I was reckless, and I always said in my heart that I never wanted to be a weekend father. I always wanted to be part of my child's life, because if I would have had somebody in my life to make me step up, to make me man up early, maybe I could have got to where I'm at way earlier in life. But I didn't have it. But I said, I'm gonna make sure that my children have it. So fathers, as much as we have to go through with these babies' mothers, if you're paying child support, the court system will work in your favor. You have to step up, and you have to be part of your child's life, because if not, they can go reckless. See, once upon a time, like my case, you could have a young girl get pregnant and her parents would step in like my grandparents did and help raise the kid. But now you have children having children, having children, having children. So if you're 16 and you're having a baby and you don't have a parent to teach you how to be a mother, how are you going to be a mother to a child or a father to a child? Because you're only going by what you know, and then it's the same repeating cycle. It's the same repeating. And let me be clear on this, because I've seen it. It's black, white, Hispanic, Asian. Nobody is above this. This is happening to everybody in America. Everything that you see that they show you that black people are going through, white people are going through it, Hispanic people are going through it, Asian people are going through it. Nobody is above this. So we have to get to these young people and say to them, look, you young men, you're out here sleeping with a whole bunch of different girls and thinking that's cool. That's not cool. It's nasty. It's wrong. To these young girls out here that's letting any Tom, Dick, and Harry do whatever they want to them, it's wrong. To get a man and keep a man,
and let
you
me
have
say
to use
this,
your mind.
I can speak for young ladies. Not only is it wrong, it destroys you.
Yes.
It destroys your self-image, and without self-image and self-confidence, it limits your life.
Yes.
And you end up deeper and deeper into that hole. And I know that everything about life right now is sex, but you know, we're going to have to rise up and begin to teach our children and train our children that I don't care what the world is doing, it's destructive.
You know, if there's one thing that I could say to young people, coming from where the choices that I made that weren't good, but I just had people in my life that cared about me and helped me get my life on course. If I could say something to young people, I would tell them, stay away from the crowd. As a young person, what you're supposed to be doing as you're growing is finding out who you are. You're not going to find your individual voice in the crowd. You're not going to find who you are on drugs. You're not going to find out who you are drinking, because all you're doing is masking. And you're never going to be able to connect with your spirit. When you hear that little voice in your head talking, it's talking to somebody. It's talking to your spirit. And your spirit is trying to come out and grow. But a wise man once said that birds of a feather not only flock together, but they also end up in a destination, same destination. So if you hang out with 9 broke people, you're going to be the 10th broke people. If you hanging out with a crowd that ain't doing nothing, well, guess what? You ain't going to do nothing, because nobody's holding you responsible in that crowd. So as a young person,
and if you have something, they'll take it away, and next thing you find yourself, they're gone because you don't have it anymore, and they're going on with life.
Once upon a time, our community used to step up when there was no integration. When we had all these different businesses in our community, because we were forced to have that, and then integration came along and we lost all of that. But if you notice, everybody that's come to America uses our blueprint. They have used our blueprint to find success, except for us. And we're the ones that set in the tone for everything. We set the voice for America. People don't understand how powerful rap music is. You don't. If you constantly listen to this and it's negative and it's not the right thing, then that's the direction that things are going to go. When rap music was positive, guess what? It started going into a positive direction. So you have to watch the people that you follow behind, because if you think celebrating somebody that's bringing your community down to its knees and celebrating them as a hero or a legend, I'm telling you, it's insane to believe that a guy can get out here and destroy the community so he can drive a nice car, so he can have flashy clothes and he can have flashy jewelries, and you hold this person up as somebody. This person has been blessed with the gift of business, and unfortunately they didn't take advantage of the opportunities, because everybody wants everything so easy. Anything worth having is going to take hard work. I know, because I worked in the jails. I worked in the prisons. I had a guy tell me he was 18 years old. He told me, hey man, I had my parents, they gave me everything. He said, but I just got caught up with some people, man, and I just couldn't stop wilding out. And then I seen him a week later, and he said to me, hey man, I got 15. I said, oh man, 15 months, you're gonna be home next summer. He was like, no man, 15 years. And it was no big deal. I was like, 15 years? Well, guess what happens in 15 years at 18 years old? You don't get a chance to reproduce. You're locked away. So now when you get out, you got that stigma on you. So now it's going to be hard for you to get a job when you get out. And that's it. It's not going to stop until we stop it.
How do we stop it? How do we stop it?
We hold people accountable. You have to, listen, let me tell you the number one problem in America. And this is coming from somebody that wasn't here overseas for 2 weeks I saved my life savings up for a vacation. But somebody that has been away and got to see this from the outside, to really see it. And to come here, and I can tell you exactly what the problem is in America. You ready?
We need it.
You, and you, and you, and you. Everybody's busy blaming somebody else. If it wasn't for those people, if it wasn't for this, if it wasn't for that, that's the problem in America, because nobody is willing to do this. And when I did that, that's when my life changed. It said, huh, you're following behind these people. Oh, look at what she's doing. Oh, look at what she's doing. What you doing? You so busy worried about what somebody, a celebrity is doing. They don't care nothing about you. All you got to do is look at the products that they're selling you. They cheaply made. They get a pair of jeans made overseas for $5, and they come back here and they sell them to you for $200. I saw a pair of jeans, a pair of $20 Levi's with somebody eyeing some stickers on them, and they were $400, and people were going crazy trying to get them. I said, these ain't nothing but $20 Levi's with some iron on stickers that you can make yourself. But you think that because you have on name brand that the wealthy people don't wear anymore, you think that because you have all these things on, it makes you somebody. It doesn't. It doesn't make you anybody because you got a nice car or a nice chain. How? When you have people that really need help, and you could do that, but you have to stop thinking about yourself, but you have to do this. If you're not willing to do this, don't say nothing.
The whole nation needs
The whole nation needs. That's why I'm saying it's not white, black, green, or yellow. It's America.
It's American.
It's America.
Your passport is blue.
You know, you can't sit here and say, oh, well, the Congress and the Senate, they not doing this and they know that. Yeah, that's fine and everything like that. What you doing? What are you as an individual doing? I seen drugs. I seen jail. I seen people killing each other. I walked into a room at Grady one time when I was going for a job interview, and I walked into a room, and it was 20 to 30 people in there, and it was quiet. It was dimly lit. And the lady said to me, I said to her, what's going on in here? She said, these are all gunshot victims to the head. You had children in there, you had every race in there, and they were all connected to machines. And she said they were waiting for their family members to either tell them to take them off the machines or they were going to harvest their organs. And when I seen that, my life changed forever. That's why I don't write like I used to, but I put more effort into work being a nurse, trying to make a difference, because I'm in a crisis center and I see people at their absolute worst every single day. And I go in there and make a difference.
And you surely do. I witness that every day. I witness that every day. And I just want to thank you for being here. I wish we had discussed your moment in Rikers Island.
Oh, yeah, I was in Rikers Island. I was in Rikers Island, too, yeah. I was in Rikers Island, yeah. I was
Yes,
in Rikers
indeed.
Island. Oh, yeah, I was in Rikers
But
Island.
thank God Germany got you back from that.
Yes.
But tell us one thing you want to leave us with, you want to leave the nation with, you want to leave Americans with, you want to leave black men with, and if you want to leave contact information.
Yes, I really don't do social media really too heavy, you know that. I don't do that.
For years, you
yeah,
haven't
you
been on
know,
social media, so let's get
I don't watch TV, I don't listen to the radio and things like that. But if you want to reach me, you can reach me at scott.gibson69@gmail.com, or you can reach me on Instagram at Scott's the Seer, because I believe in a vision. We either going to all fly together or we're going to crash and burn together. There's nobody that's going to survive America on their own. Not this group, not that group, not that group. If America falls, we all fall. So we need to get past the division and say, hey, you know.
And realize we all have blue passports.
Realize we all have blue passports. Because that's the way the world sees us. Now we got to see each other like that and understand that we're Americans. And this is our country, and we have to be here together as a people in order for this country to get back to what it was.
And find a way to make it work.
We can make it work. Just stop doing this and start doing this, and that'll change everything. I promise. It won't be overnight, but it'll change it.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for having me.